Hey there, welcome to June 22nd, 2022. My name is Kurt, and this is my Good Life Meditation, an exercise that I perform every morning just after waking up to remind myself of my life objectives and principles, and to see how I'm doing applying these to the everyday. Boy, am I different now. It's only been 15 minutes. 15 minutes ago when the alarm went off, I was not in good shape. I was in the midst of the weirdest dream. I won't go so far as to call it a nightmare, although I guess in its consequences it was kind of the same in terms of leaving me utterly unrested and just spent. So one of the projects that I'm doing at my job is related to elections, and very high profile activity and project and a lot of responsibility. So lately I've been having, and always when I wake up, an hour or 2 hours before the alarm, I'm invariably waking up to worries about work, thinking about my job and what could go wrong, and in the absence of things to actually worry about, I make stuff up. Last night was the case. So I'm just going to set this down. I tried to write it in my journal, but I was too upset to write it correctly. Literally, I came straight out of bed, sat down, started writing, and the words are all over the place. It's so ridiculous, but it's a great consequence to my mind and my physical health. Now I've got to face it down a Wednesday of work with insufficient rest, certainly not well rested. Okay, so we had an election going on in my dream, and I was involved in the election to the extent that there was some sort of a quiz that was going on, and there was a panel of people who were responsible to present a type of an options, and there were these little, I just remember this, this is totally useless, I shouldn't be glad of anything. There were these little, but I'm kind of glad I'm recording it because otherwise it's going to disappear forever. There were these little like sticks. I remember they were white colored, they looked like flattened toothpicks of a sort. I don't know what was on them, but there was some writing on them, and there were different cups full of sticks. And we were performing this in a crowd, and I was seated as in a movie theater situation with all the chairs, and it was very tight. And somehow I had a little table in front of me, wobbly, and I had the cups, plastic, those little red plastic cups that blow over easy in the wind with all the sticks. And it didn't happen yet before I woke up, but I knew that a wind was going to come and knock it over and spill the sticks everywhere. Imagine those being spilled in a movie theater setting. But I was having a problem that there was a little boy that kept coming over and taking sticks and doing something with them. And I was trying to petition with their parents to give me the sticks back. But that wasn't the worst of it. My little election-related display booth consisted of 2 fruit displays. I think it was fruit displays. One of them was a mixture of like, see, it's already fading. This is where I can't remember. I'll start with the other one. The first one was a mixture of like 2 types of fruit. I can't quite remember what they were. It's already fading. 2 types of fruit in cans. No, one was in a bag. And the other thing was another concoction of sort, which is gone from my head already. And it had red beans in it. And this one I couldn't quite get to. I had to somehow open the containers and put them in and sort them around and put them out and put the sticks. And then the election started, and all the people around me were doing the same thing, but they were done. And there was an audience and a crowd and that pesky boy. And I had, for the 2 things over here, I couldn't even find the ingredients. Luckily, Geordi from Star Trek was there. LeVar Burton. Is that his name? Whatever character LeVar Burton played was there. And he and some other guy agreed to go into the supermarket, which was conveniently right there, and get the ingredients for me. So I gave them the stuff, and they weren't coming back. And I don't know, but it seemed like the election was going to start soon, and I wasn't even near ready. And the other one, so I turned to do the other one, and I had the pear. I think it was a pear. I think it was yes, it was medjool, dates, and a pear, and a can of pear. So the one was the bag of the dates, and the other the pear. And I remember distinctly sitting down and having both with me. But when I turned after giving this stuff to LeVar Burton, and he went into the store, I turned to the stuff, and I only had the pairs, the module dates were missing. And I was fussing about looking everywhere for them, and I couldn't find them. And I was worried because LeVar Burton was still away, and I tried to get up and went through all the people, excuse me, pardon me, as you do in a movie theater, and went in and I found somebody. Oh, I asked if they'd seen LeVar Burton in the supermarket, and they hadn't. Anyway, and that's about the point. I was just shuffling back to get to my stuff, utterly in a panic about the election because I knew it was starting moments away, and my sticks were vulnerable, if not scattered or taken by the boy. And my mixed thing was all screwed up, and I was missing half the ingredients for the other thing, and I didn't know what the consequences were. That's how I woke up. Frustrated, lost, and spent. Good losh. That was pretty awful. And all made up for no good reason other than to have something to worry about. And I think I mentioned yesterday, I think I figured out that this insomnia is related to the fact that I'm working from home. And it's not something I can address by going into the office because there's nobody there. I'm a person that needs to be, I guess, working in an office surrounded by coworkers, under stress and under fire. I can handle that better. Anyway, that was last night. Didn't deal with that very well. But I think I dealt with it better when I woke up. I sat up in the chair there and I realized, Kurt, you're a mess. Boy, you're in a little nightmare thing. Really got to you. Why don't you go clean up, Kurt? Talk about it in your video and then move on. So that's what I did. Other than that, yesterday was a fantastic day. I not because it was a great day, just because I tackled the work part of the day well. I was only a half day of work, but I squeezed a full day's worth of work in there. Man, I delivered. I came back raring. And at 1 o'clock, I sent my boss an email with the details of things. Here's what I plan to do. And I knocked them out. I did them. Still have a lot to do today. There's some unanswered questions that I need to answer. Or I need to facilitate the finding of the answers too. But I think I'm all right. Other than that, when I went to see the doctor, I saw the doctor yesterday. She examined me, the surgeon that is, and it is indeed a hernia, and I'm going to get it. I'm going to get the surgery. She gave me two options: the surgery that goes through the belly button, the more advanced surgery, or the old-fashioned surgery that leaves a big cut on the side and goes in from you can ambush the hernia from either side. I elected for the more traditional one because it's more traditional, and both of them have a high success factor. But I was also kind of put off by the idea of drilling a hole through my belly button. Well, it's not a drill, of course, but you know what I mean. Ugh. Had a great night last night with Yumiko. We had a nice dinner. She and I are trying to work on our diet a little more. I'm motivated now because I'm highly motivated because if I can lose the weight before my surgery, then that's going to help facilitate my surgery because I'll have less pressure on the area of the hernia. So I'm highly motivated. In fact, this will be the last coffee with milk. I'll use cream. Just black after this. I'm going to cut down from that though too. All right, so let's do the good life. 7 objectives and 30 principles. My first objective is to, as I always say, be always ready to die. To have my relationships and my affairs and my life's work in order. Number 2 is to make good and effective use of time. Not just good use, but effective use of my time that has results that I can see or apprehend or gauge that they're going to have consequences later. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. That's these 7 and 30 now. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions, to become a person who reacts well to my every circumstance, not panicking, as I am wont to do in a difficult situation. I will panic. Less so these days. And fortunately, I don't have too many panicky situations anymore. Next is to perform good actions, just to do good things when opportunities arise. And then to recognize my true limits, my true opportunities, so I'm keeping focused on things that are reasonable and letting go of the things that are not. Did I move apathy here? I might have this. I'm still a little confused. I did some movements lately before I took my short hiatus. And lastly, last in terms of objectives, is to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. Oh boy, I need the coffee. Okay, now my 30 principles. These are as follows. Number 1 is the principle of war, to always be fighting against propositions of truth, especially those that seem important. Number 2 is the significant and important, consequential and important, worldview adjusting or threatening or altering. The mundane stuff I'm not so worried about. I don't care about challenging your claim to what you enjoyed for breakfast. But I do care if you tell me that you talk to the dead. And that, well, I really don't give a damn if you talk to the dead. But I do care if you talk to the dead and you tell me that I need to take seriously what the dead are telling you about me. Then I'm not gonna take you seriously unless you've got some good reason to demonstrate that that's actually true. Number 3 is the homunculus. This just the suggestion that free will that I don't have a soul, but I do have a consciousness. Then comes the Anchorhold, the idea that the consciousness is trapped between the sides of my head, within my head and within my skull. Then comes purpose. No. After Anchorhold comes see, my mind's all scrambled this morning. The home of good and evil, the suggestion that right and wrong, good and evil are suggestions and opinions that we hold. They don't actually exist out there. Then comes the atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces that are flowing and changing and falling to pieces, just like you and me. Or going to pieces. Sure, I can have a patch job here and there. My little hernia operation, but literally it's nothing more than a patch. I wonder what will happen to that hernia patch. It's like a little mesh. I wonder if it'll burn up when I'm cremated. I wonder what it's made of. Probably. Next is a principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, including things and people, animals, animate, inanimate things, all of it. There's some nature to everything. And when we apprehend the nature and deal with it, then we're in better shape. We deal with the world in a more realistic manner. Then comes the pirate ride, the idea that free will is an illusion, that the universe pushes and nudges and jostles and suggests to us so many things that our decisions are really not our own. They're a collective consensus, or at least a democratic weighing in of some majority rule. To go now to the left or the right, or to vote red or blue, or choose a sprinkled donut versus a cinnamon roll. It's not just up here. It's all of this that's weighing into that. So even if free will, even if free will is something that is real, it's only a small part. I think it's a small part of the whole thing. I mean, sure, it is the tipping point, but still, we're pressured towards that tipping point. We decide based on what the universe is screaming at us to do. Okay, next comes maturity and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude, which are the attitude and the perspective and the situation that we're in, the way that we deal with the situation that we're in to do better in the future. Remembering our past failures and successes so that we can avoid more of the former and enjoy more of the latter. on a going forward basis. Next comes the social principle. We are social creatures. We need each other. Then public speaking, a reminder to be careful about what I say, to not gossip, and also be careful about what I write. Then comes temperance, and the sub-principles of suffering, simplicity, apathy, and what was one more? Prudence. That's it. Prudence. Being very careful about my choices. And then comes the horror show. Life is a scary, terrible place. All kinds of awful things happening everywhere. If not happening right now to you and me, it's coming for us eventually. And I want to be ready for it. It's hard to do that. It's scary. And then comes that which must be borne, and what we have to bear is the fact of the horror show and the fact of whatever responsibilities we've onboarded through life, especially when they say I do, and when the doctor says it's a boy or it's a girl. That's what you have to bear. Can't run away from that. Well, you can, but boy, are there consequences. I think this is tough. Then comes the home of good and evil, a reminder that, is that right? No, the Feast of Offal. Yeah, the upset that we spew out into the world when we're going through a rough patch and force others to consume. I try not to do that. And then comes after the home of good and evil, comes, the Feast of Offal comes distraction and agency and the great indifference, two principles. The fact agency and the great indifference suggests that if you lift the veil, the curtain on the immediacy of our surroundings, we'll see a universe of emptiness. I mean, it's full of stuff and emptiness, but it's also seems to be lacking any guiding agency, no God. And that's what we don't want to see. So we distract ourselves throughout our life with our work and our play and our families and our sports and our hobbies and our TV and our gods, so that we don't have to witness the emptiness of the universe. Because it's just too hard to deal with sometimes. Next comes the best seat in the house. A reminder to try to be all right with who I am and where I am and what I'm doing. Not wanting to be anything or anyone or anywhere else. All the while striving to improve my circumstance and situation and character. It's a tricky balance between satisfaction and improvement. Then comes the Path of Wildness, which is a way to move forward and up from one life into another life, which is the overarching theme of my marriage with my wife Yumiko. We are constantly remaking ourselves into new lives. Well, not constantly. We give each life about 5 years, 10 years at max. And then we create a new life. And we tear to pieces the one we're living now. But we always do it together and with our daughter. Although the next time probably won't be with our daughter. She'll be having her own life by then. Okay, next comes the risk of avoiding risk. Recognition of the surface level risks of life and the deep risk. The surface level stuff deals with the practical factors. Getting an education, starting a career, buying a house, starting a family, and saving for our retirement, our security. These are the things that we mostly attend to on our day-to-day. There's also a deep risk of not answering the call to discover oneself. If one hears such a call, not all do apparently. But if you do, and you don't, then there's a price to pay. Likewise, if you hear the call to, create a home and a family and security via education and a job, and sticking to it, to your guns, and you don't do that, there's consequences to that too. They're grave as well. You might not be able to ever stop working. You might not have a family to turn to, and your daughter as you're to look to as your legacy. You might not even have a home, or not one that's much yourself, although you can get by lesser with that one. I mean, Miko and I can put together a home in a short number of years that's as comfortable and as good as anything we've ever had. But the family and the security and the sense of self, those are harder things to recover later if you don't attend to them early. And I'm guilty of failing on that front. And I will pay the price. And I accept that fact. Okay, next is, after the risk of avoiding risk, is the sin and damnation. There are 7 sins in my world. View. These are falsity, being untrue, credulity, believing things too easily, faith, belief based on belief, superstition, category of belief, category of nonsense, authority, believing things based on the office and speech and carriage and demeanor of an institution and the people, namely the people that represent that institution. Dogma, believing things based on the fact that there's a big canonical book, or it's a blessed tradition, or all of the rites and pomp and circumstance of our institutions, and the fact that everybody else has always believed this way. It's not, none of those things are good reasons to believe. And then lastly, gossip. Talking about others behind their back when you know you shouldn't. The consequence of all of these is not damnation in any afterlife, because I don't think there is any afterlife. It's damnation in the here and now, knowing that you're being untrue, believing things that are possibly untrue, and being nasty to other people by talking about them when they're not, can't defend themselves. Okay, complete oblivion is next. The reminder that after death there's nothing to follow, apparently. No heaven or hell, no life forever, no soul to go on. We'll never see our loved ones again. We'll never have a chance to make amends, and we'll never see applied justice met out. The evil ones will get away with their unpunished sins, their unpunished deeds, and the good will never be, who are not rewarded in this lifetime will never be rewarded. That's a sober reminder, and activating one. It really motivates me to be active in the moment of these days, to live better, to reconnect, to reconcile, and to be an instrument of justice. It sounds like a vigilante thing, but I don't mean it that way. Okay, next comes the Great Life Adventure, which is one or more experiences that form the nucleus of our inner identity, who we are. Mine is outlined in my book, Going Alone, which tells the story of my own great life adventure. I've had several, but it's the big one. And then the consequence of that had on my life in developing the Good Life Creed, and the motivation that I found to come back from the desert and to live the best I can. Although I do struggle with that. Definitely not a success at that. But I'm working hard at it. Next comes the season of philosophy, which is just a reminder that if you've lived an interesting and an adventurous life, you might have things to say of that, and that might come later. So I remind myself to keep the book in the blank book of pages, and of empty pages, and the pen ready, and the crayons to write and record what has come of my life. When the words come right around, because just as soon as they arrive, they're gone. Next comes the bullseye aim, a reminder that I strive for the target, but I usually miss. That's normal. Sometimes I get it almost. Sometimes I get a bullseye, but that's really rare. Usually I'm off by some degree, and that should be expected in all things in life. Then the uphill climb. Life is a daily struggle, climbing up, up, up. If I'm not exhausted and spent, and by the end of the day, then I haven't been climbing. Arena and utility is next. Life is this arena where we can develop and then use our principles towards the achievement of our objectives and goals. And then nothing is enough is the next principle. Reminder that not just to strive to consume less, but see if I can get by with next to nothing. There's something in that quest that's worthwhile. And then finally, the last principle is the principle of fun. Reminder to have a good time in the here and now. Also anticipate the future, joys of the future to come, and the past, and enjoy looking back at the memories from the past. So to that end, it was Father's Day last Sunday, but Emily was away, so she's asked to celebrate Father's Day this coming weekend. So that'll be Sunday, because Saturdays are house cleaning and shopping day. And what I want to do is I want to go to I want to find a really, really good Mexican restaurant somewhere in Los Angeles, or maybe Jewish food. Maybe I'll ask Lior, but it won't be open on Saturday, but it will be open on Sunday. Maybe I'll ask Lior for a good recommendation for that. And go have, maybe I'll do that. Maybe Sunday will be Jewish food day. I'll ask him for that recommendation. Lior's my mechanic from Israel. He services my BMW, and he told me there's a really good Jewish restaurant in the valley. Maybe I'll go try that. Yeah. And I'll ask him what to get, or I'll think about it a little bit. But it's my choice to go out. And Yumiko and I are going to do that. We're going to alternate, and then we'll review the restaurants and share that in social media posts. Also, yesterday I did something interesting. I tried sitting in this chair. I like to sit here and read. This is my reading chair. I make videos here too, but mostly it's my reading chair. And I was reading yesterday, and I made 2 impromptu videos sharing little vignettes and snippets from my books. And I actually shared them on Facebook, which, not on my Facebook page, but on my Facebook profile, which, I don't know, it kind of violated my purpose of using Facebook, because Facebook is to be more for the sharing of, my rule is if I can't tag somebody else, then I won't share it. And I did 2 posts yesterday which blatantly didn't do that. I also shared them on my Softy Papa page, but I just enjoyed them so much that I shared them, and they seem to be well received. Don't know if I'll keep that up. Maybe that'll be my new thing on Facebook. Maybe on Facebook I'll allow myself to share share posts related to what namely my wife and I do, my family and I, and little snippets of literature. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe that'll be my thing. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, let's plan for the day. I have 4 meetings today. 2 of them are interesting and tricky. I think I'm prepared already. I don't need to necessarily prepare for these. But I'm so anxious. I am so anxious. I already feel this bubbling, churning anxiety inside about these. They're high-profile meetings with leadership, where I will be put to the test, asked challenging questions and the answers that I give will have consequences. I mean, it's in the great scheme of things, they're nothing consequences, but they're consequences to me and my responsibility, because I take my job very seriously. And it's very important to me that I do a good job. So I'm anxious. And between that, I have a lot of little things to do here and there to get things going, get a new schedule, etc. You don't need to know the details, but I have a lot of things I have to press forward, and I will do it. Also, I'm skipping breakfast this morning. Yumiko's been doing an intermittent fasting for about a week, and I'm going to join her to make it a little easier. We're both going to be in sync a little more. So I'll skip breakfast, go for lunch, and then a good dinner, and keep this up. Anything else for today? I think that's about it. Thanks for joining me. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care.